Everyone, welcome to Sports Shorts Daily. Ronnie Rance here with you, along with Tommy Chrysan over at Tremonti's Meat and Seafood. Today on Sports Shorts Daily, we're going to talk about the crushing loss for the Pelicans last night, the no-hitter in Major League Baseball, the second time in World Series history, some updated lines on the Saints and LSU, and a whole lot more. But first, want to get to the World Series for the second time in the history of the game, in the World Series history over 100 plus years. There was a no-hitter thrown. Remember, Don Larson did it for the Yankees back in the 50s. But yesterday, there was a no-hitter thrown by the Astros pitching staff. Christian Javier got things started. Three other relievers, including the finale by Ryan Presley, finished it off. But and look, that's a cool story. I mean, the night before, the Phillies shut out the Astros 7-0, and everybody was talking about how the Astros hadn't scored in 15 innings and their bats were dormant and all that. Well, they then erupt and score 5 runs in one inning and win the game 5-0 last night. And then they turn around and no hit the Phillies. So something's got to give in Game 5. Somebody's got to get it going offensively. But Tommy, even though it was a no hitter. To me, it doesn't feel the same as if it was a one-person no-hitter. To me, it's not Don Larson. Like Don Larson, his no-hitter still feels special. Am I looking at it the right way?
Well, his no-hitter was also a perfect game, so
that
true. Adds a little flavor to it. I think a combined no-hitter, which the Astros had a combined no-hitter earlier this year against the Yankees. So it's the first time anybody ever had 2 combined no-hitters. I think it's a no-hitter because, A, it's the World Series. B, they got 27 outs. And, I think you got to call it a combined no-hitter. And in today's world of Major League Baseball, the days of complete games or, like a needle in the haystack. I mean, it's just hardly ever going to happen based on the way teams are built, the money being paid to the bullpen guys, the specialties. And, I sat there last night. I knew who was coming in. Abreu was coming in the 7th, Montero the 8th, Presley the 9th. So you knew that. And if you're a fan of the game, you knew that. And the Astro fans knew it. Philly fans knew it. So they just I think you call it a no-hitter. A, because it's the World Series. And B, you got 27 outs without allowing a hit, which is very hard to do. Just like we talked how hard it was to shut out a team in the NFL, and the Saints did that last week. It's very hard to no-hit a Major League Baseball team. Because even that guy hitting 192 is a Major League hitter who – at any time could rip one back through the middle or rip one down the line.
Well, I definitely – I'm not arguing the fact that it should be a no-hitter. I'm just saying for me, it doesn't feel as special. It doesn't feel as special as one of Nolan Ryan's 7 no-hitters or something when you do it start to finish. It's a cool story. It's an amazing accomplishment. It deserves – it is a no-hitter. That's what it is. They didn't give up any hits. But doing it with 4 pitchers just to me takes a little bit of the luster away.
Well, I don't know if the luster was away. When that final out was recorded, ground ball to Bregman, by the way, to Gurriel at first, you could see the emotion. Them guys knew what was up, and then the guys coming storming out the dugout. I mean, it was almost a storm out the dugout like we just won it all. But they didn't win it all, but that was part of history. 3rd no-hitter in postseason history, 2nd one in the World Series, and 1st combined no-hitter. Doc Halladay threw a no-hitter in a division series back in the day for the Phillies. So because of all that, I think it was pretty special.
I'm curious to see. I mean, Game 5 to me feels like the tipping point of this series. If Philly comes in and wins Game 5, they only got to win 1 in Houston. If the Astros win Game 5 with 2 at home, you feel like it's a foregone conclusion. They're going to win the series. But it's so wild because you try to figure out momentum, you try to figure out which team's the hottest. You after Game 4, you think, okay, well, the momentum's on the Phillies side, they're going to roll, and then they lay the biggest egg of all. So I don't know how you bounce back. Syndergaard versus Verlander's the matchup. Obviously, the advantage goes to the Astros with Verlander pitching. As good as he's been throughout his career, he's not been very good. Even he's been very good in the postseason, just not the World Series, which is so weird. Great in the wild card, divisional, all that stuff, but just not very good in the World Series. And so, will he have a bounce back game? If I'm trying to decide between Syndergaard and Verlander, who's going to have a bounce back? I would say it's going to be Verlander. But looking forward to this one. You know, uh, on Tuesday, or was it? Yeah, Wednesday. Is today Friday? What's today? Today's
Today's
Thursday.
Thursday,
So
all
on
day long.
Tuesday, yeah, because I know they had the rain out. So on Tuesday, when the Phillies won 7-0, interesting. Penn State registered two earthquakes, two mini earthquakes on the Richter scale when the Phillies hit the two home runs and the crowd went nuts. So much like Auburn, LSU back in '88 and all that. That's how Philly fans are right now with the Phillies. They actually miles and
Well,
miles away. Penn State registered a small earthquake.
well, what a time to be a fan in Philly. I mean, the Eagles are the only unbeaten team in the NFL. The Phillies, well, now their backs to the wall, and we know there'll be a game in Houston Saturday night. And of course, hockey. Philadelphia's a big hockey town. So
And the
it's pretty cool to
Sixers
be
have a real good team for the East. You know what I mean?
So I mean, it's cool to be a Philly fan right now.
All right, let's talk a little bit about the Pelicans, man. This is one of those games that you look back at the end of the year and you circle a couple of games that you should have absolutely won and could affect potentially your seeding. This is one. The Pelicans lose on the road in overtime to the Lakers, but it wasn't the fact that they necessarily lost the Lakers, who started the season 0-5. They win against Denver, and now they've won 2 in a row by beating the Pelicans. But it's how they lost, Tommy.
Yeah, I mean, you're up 3 points with about a little under 2 seconds to go. Rookie Dyson Daniels got 2 free throws. 2. You make one of them, game is absolutely over. Okay, he missed them both. Lakers hit a 3 and force overtime and ended up winning by 3 in overtime. Ronnie, that's like you said. They'll turn the page on that. They got to play the Warriors Friday night in New Orleans, but that'll be one of them ones you look back, especially if it gets hairy about getting in the playoffs or a seeding spot, and say, man, we really it's kind of like blowing that lead in the 8th or 9th inning. You should never let those get away. Daniels has got to make one of those 2 free throws, and then that's ball game. You're flying home with a W.
The Dyson Daniels, I really like him. He's going to be a hell of a player. He was the 8th pick in the draft out of Australia, only 19 years old. This is hopefully one of those learning things for him. At that age, obviously the pressure got to him. You just can't miss 2 free throws in the NBA and be a guard forward. It's not like you're Shaquille O'Neal. Like, you have to make one of 2 and put this game away. And I'd be willing to bet that Dyson Daniels will never have something like this happen the rest of his career. Unfortunately, it happened now. You hope it doesn't, handicap him or crush his confidence. He feels terrible. I'm sure his teammates are picking him up. It's a long season. You play 82 games. That's the beauty of the NBA. But, man, this is one where you lay in bed and the coaches lay in bed and go, I mean, just make one and we don't have to do anything. We can just stand there and the game's over. But bigger win for the Lakers than it was for the Pelicans. The Lakers absolutely needed it. They had 5 players in double digits. Do you feel like, Tommy, that the Lakers, who are the Lakers? Are they the team that beat the Nuggets and the Pelicans back to back? Or are they that 0-5 team? Are you buying or selling the Lakers?
I'm sorry, they're the 0-5 team. All the pundits and so many people follow the NBA closer than I. I keep an eye on it because of the Pelicans, and I think the Pelicans have a great shot to be pretty good this year. They are pretty good. The Lakers, there's just a lot of issues with the Lakers, from the front office to the coaching, and LeBron is LeBron, and Anthony Davis is the bull in the china shop. He's going to get hurt any day now, so. I don't know. I think overall time will show that the Pelicans are much better than the Lakers, even though the Lakers beat them last night.
All right, so let's move on to Saturday. It Never Rains in Tiger Stadium is going to be challenged by Dan Bornay on Saturday night because it is a chance of rain all day, all night. Although, everybody's trying to break it down and be, the Weather Channel and figure out. And people are starting to think, well, the morning and the early evening, we might be okay by game time. Regardless, it's going to affect. It's not going to be your gorgeous Saturday, early November with tailgating for 12 hours and sunshine and all that. You're going to have to fight through it a little bit. But that said, I don't know if that's affected, a wet field, wet conditions. that may be affecting the line a little bit. And I say that because the line had gone down to minus 12 and a half. Now it's up to minus 13 and a half in favor of Bama. I'm wondering if, as you get closer, if the weather plays a factor, if people are like, well, the stadium's not going to be rocking as much. It's not going to be as full as much. People aren't going to be out there tailgating as much, which means they're not going to be as crazy. And it's not going to be as much of a home field advantage if you've got bad weather in Tiger Stadium.
Yeah, well, and everybody wants to say, well, who gets the advantage if we got rain during the game or the field becomes wet? They pretty much keep the footballs dry the way things go these days. They'll make sure they keep footballs dry, or they'll have 60 footballs on the sidelines to be ready. But that's a big debate. But you can't worry about the weather. You can't control it. It may affect tailgating a little bit, but I don't know if you can temper the fact that this is a big game that LSU didn't think they'd be in on November 5th. But you credit the team, you credit Brian Kelly and his staff. And, and Alabama's Alabama. Somebody told me last night, said everybody thinks like Bama's down. That's not like Florida State being down last year and Nebraska being down now. They're only down like a notch or two. It's still a damn good football team that's capable of beating anybody and putting up a lot of points. They got the Heisman Trophy winner. They got the best defensive player in the country in Anderson. I mean, they're still a great football team, and they got the greatest coach of all time. But I've already put some money on LSU plus 12.5. I bet that yesterday. I'm seeing some money lines come around now, plus 410 on LSU, plus 370. I saw one spot. A lot of people thinking LSU has a great chance to win this one straight up. But I think today the smart thing is take those points. Take those points and put them in your pocket.
I don't know where to go with this game from a standpoint of I don't think I want to bet the plus or minus side of it. I think it's more about the total, and I do think I do think it's almost like, Tommy, if you're going to bet the over under, you need to almost make it a game time decision. You need to see how bad the weather is and wait and see is it actually going to be raining during the game? Did they get an inch of rain that day? What's the field conditions and all that kind of stuff. Because I do think that Alabama has a much better chance of saying, all right, the field conditions are this, therefore we need to keep it on the ground and grind it out and be physical. And I think Nick has shown that throughout his career, that he's willing to be a little more conservative, and he's not worried about point spreads. He's just worried about getting out there with a win. Whereas I think if LSU's going to have success against Alabama, they're going to have to throw the football. I don't think there's any way that they can just line up and run it at LSU. They're going to have to throw the football and have the ability of their quarterback to scramble as well. That's got to be a part of his game. And so I think the weather affects LSU more than it affects Alabama, quite frankly. And so I think I'm going to wait to make that game time decision on whether to bet the over under. Obviously, if you've got bad weather, it makes you lean a little more to the under. If it had been dry and this wasn't even an issue, I'm thinking it's going to be high scoring.
Well, good call by you to say, wait till right before kickoff. I mean, you can literally bet 5 minutes before kickoff, 4 minutes before. Good call on you to monitor the weather there. Now, I think LSU's got to run the football and then open up the deep end. LSU's got to have big plays. Alabama doesn't let people go 80 yards in 12 plays a whole lot. What happens is you get that 25-yard completion or bigger. And that's how you break Alabama. And they've been susceptible to the pass down the field this year in the big picture. Bama's also the most penalized team in the SEC. So maybe you can get a break, get a pass interference call if you're trying to throw it down the field, and so, you're going to have some big plays. Chance made the point, wet field can affect special teams, and special teams are very important. So we'll have to wait and see. But I think LSU's got to be able to run the football to open up Daniels, and then Daniels has got to be able to throw the ball down the field. Don't keep throwing it under the chains.
Chance saying Alabama had 39 rushing yards against Mississippi State, pointing out that they struggled to throw the football. Yeah, but didn't Young have a big, gigantic day throwing? Byron saying that this comes down to line against line with running game due to weather. Definitely can see why betting line has grown.
Yeah, so it's going to be fun. Going to be interesting. A lot of tickets on the secondary market. A lot of money flying around. I've seen some big numbers.
Yeah. All right, New Orleans Saints on Sunday, Monday night, big Monday night football game. Looking forward to it. TK, I'm going to be in Orlando, Florida on Monday, Tuesday, and Wednesday of next week for the annual Cuban Ryder Cup between Team USA / Louisiana and Team International / Cuba. Louis Garcia, the captain of Team Cuba, me, the captain of Team United States. We're going to be 16 dudes. This could get sketchy. 16 dudes under one roof with a private chef playing 4 rounds of golf in 3 days. So I'll definitely have some stories for you. But we're going to be, as a group, watching the Saints and Ravens from Orlando, eating some steaks and stone crabs. So looking forward to that in a big way. The stone crabs more than watching the game. But the Ravens right now, 2.5-point favorite, over under 48 in the Dome. I mean, you know, it's hard to bet the Saints right now because you don't know what you're going to get. I mean, you know, consistency is what you're looking for in a gambler. You kind of think you have an idea of where they're at. I mean, last week they came out of nowhere. The defense looked like the 85 Bears. Are they going to show up again this week? Again, you know, different kind of quarterback. Lamar Jackson is no Carr, and he's going to challenge you on the ground. But where are you leaning right now in this game?
Man, like you said, you don't know what Saints team's going to show up. You know, maybe being home in the Dome and they had to shut out against the Raiders. Maybe the fans will get fired up and be raring to go. Right now, I'm kind of liking the Saints and the points. Just thinking that the same team that played last week, offense, defense, special teams, even though Lutz missed a field goal, I'm thinking, you know, you can get out there and get it done. Now, you know, Ravens might be a little bit better than the Raiders, but I kind of liking the Saints and the points, but we'll see what happens between now and Monday.
Well, they'll have, 8 days off and, obviously feeling really good about themselves. Dennis Allen has said that prior to that big win that he thought the Saints were really close to getting on one of these runs and winning 4 or 5 games in a row. Clearly we'll find out if he's, Nostradamus. If they can beat the Ravens, then they might be on their way to one of those kind of runs. I think I know about the Saints offense, and I think we kind of have an idea of what that looks like. And obviously they didn't trade Alvin Kamara, which is a good thing. But the defense, I mean, that's, we thought this was the defense that you saw against the Raiders, what it was going to look like going into the season. And then it was the absolute opposite. So I'm hoping and praying that we get a half of what we saw last week against the Raiders. By the way, a little note before we get out of here, Tommy, on Christian Javier, the starting pitcher for the Astros, who was the first leg of that 4-pitcher no-hitter last night. If this doesn't give hope to every kid out there, he signed for $10,000 out of the Dominican Republic 7 years ago and was a guy that was in the mid-'80s with a good sink, kind of disappearing fastball. And then, of course, 7 years later at the age of 25, throws a no-hitter. He's a jewel of the team. He's going to sign a mega contract. And oh, by the way, his folks were able to be at the game yesterday, flew in and were at the game, and that made it even more. It's a really cool story. I love it when long shots and free agents and stuff like that make it.
Yeah, no, it's a good story. There's always a handful of these kind of stories. It does give hope to them guys grinding in the minor leagues or that college player that, doesn't get a big offer but still believes in himself. I mean, and more dreams don't come true than do. Austin Nola is kind of one of those dreams come true and the grind he went through. And we talked about that a couple of weeks ago. But, yeah, it's a cool story, and it should tell young kids, even the younger kids who aren't really thinking professionally right now that, hey, if you work hard, you stick with it, put your nose down, maybe you get a little break, be in the right place at the right time, and good things can happen.
Tommy, isn't that correct? Javier started the other combined no-hitter earlier this year?
Yes, he did.
Yeah, pretty cool.
Both of them, against the Yankees that was.
The thing about the draft and everything now in Major League Baseball now, I do like the fact that the international players are now put into the draft beginning this coming year. That's what it should be. It shouldn't be that they get because there's a huge benefit to being an international player before when you were a true free agent. And I mean, they could just have a bidding war for you. And now that's not the case. But so now they're lumped into the draft, which is slotted money. There's penalties if you go over. There's only 20 rounds, which is good and bad. It's good for college baseball, the 20 rounds and the international players being in there, which means more players are going to come to college baseball than before. The better players are going to come than before. And then two, it's bad for the international players, but it also equals it out. So now if you look at, Dylan Cruz, you don't just look around and say who else in the SEC or the Pac-10 is pretty good, or which high school superstar. You got to go, well, who's doing what in Puerto Rico? Who's doing what in the Dominican? Who's doing what in Australia? Like, so it's a different world. But speaking of LSU baseball, they're in action Sunday noon at home against McNeese. The Cowboys come in. They're going to play, I don't know, 13 innings or something like that. So get a chance to see the Tigers against some other teams. Obviously, McNeese, one of the best teams in the Southland Conference. And then the following Sunday on the 13th, the LSU goes over to UL Lafayette, takes on the Raging Cajuns in Lafayette. I'll be at that game. I won't be able to be at the game this Sunday. I'll be in Orlando.
Speaking of that game in Lafayette, is Brother Gus going to have the suite open?
Absolutely, yeah. If you make your way over there, we'll get you.
Yeah, I know I might need a seat or two in the suite with Brother Gus. I'll have to text him, or you can tell him that TK may be coming to town.
Yeah, hopefully we'll have Mama Janet and everybody up in there. But it's going to be.
Maybe we could do a special Sports Shorts Daily for.
Yeah, we will. A little update. That's right.
Let's do that. Yeah, we do a little something crazy.
But looking forward to seeing. Look, this LSU lineup. I know this for a fact that Jay Johnson, the biggest struggle he's going to have is making out that lineup from a standpoint of who do you put in there in the 7, 8, 9 spot. Joe Barron-Dugas, looking at the lineup right now, Joe Barron-Dugas, in my mind, barring injuries, because Cruz is going to play center, Pearson's going to play right, Skeens is going to DH. Joe Barron-Dugas, you got one guy hit 18 homers last year. You got another guy hit 19 homers the year before in Dugas. Joe Barry 18 last year. Like, there's not a spot for them. Like, they might have to go lefty righty in left field, or maybe you tell Skeens. I don't know. Maybe I don't know what Jay thinks, but maybe when Skeens pitches, they don't DH him because they want him to focus on pitching, and they let the other guy. I mean, like, and then by the way, we haven't talked about some of the incoming stud freshmen. Like, they are so deep. This LSU baseball team is so deep offensively that it is an absolute struggle and concern of Jay Johnson's on how to make that lineup and how to keep them happy and how to keep them engaged. Look, there's going to be some tough conversations had at the end of this semester, at the end of this fall, when they have their exit meetings with their coaches and they kind of get a little bit of a lay of the land. Like, there's going to be some cats that have their feelings hurt. And that's a terrible, it's a sad thing, but it just shows you how good they are and how deep they are.
It's a good problem to have, but you're right. The key for Johnson and his staff is going to be managing a couple of those guys who, everybody wants to be in a lineup, okay? But everybody knows they can't be in a lineup. And then you keep them engaged. You use that word. That's a key thing. And I'm sure Jay Johnson's aware of that. He's a very smart person and a very smart baseball coach. And, hopefully he's already begun some of those conversations in the effort to keep people engaged, even if you're not going to play in a game or two, or you're going to sit out, or whatever. And then the injury bug could make a decision or two easier once you get to February. But it's a good problem to have. Championship teams have lots of talent.
By the way, we haven't even mentioned a guy by the name of Cade Beloso.
Yeah,
Cade Beloso is going to be a pinch hitter guy for the most part. I mean, that's crazy. All right, we'll be back tomorrow, 9 a.m. for more sports. 9:30 tomorrow.
9:30 tomorrow. I'll be right back here at Tremonti's. I talked to Mike this morning. They have a big catering order going out. But order your Thanksgiving turkeys now. Fried, smoked, rotisserie. They got all the side dishes, all the trimmings. You can go to the Tremontis.com, click the seasonal tab. All the information for Thanksgiving is updated. The prices are all accurate. Tremonti's Meat and Seafood. Order your turkeys now. Lots of orders coming in. They're going to do north of 1,200 turkeys here, counting fried, smoked, and rotisserie, the green bean casserole, the rice dressing, the carrot souffle, you name it. Tremonti's Meat and Seafood. get ready for Thanksgiving, which is 3 weeks from today. So
Wow.
that's a good thing. It's close. So start making those plans and be sure to include Tremonti's. Be sure to like and share this video. That's important. Like and share the video.
All right. Thanks to everyone. By the way, I'll show. We'll have a couple videos for you tomorrow from the Louisiana Sports Hall of Fame celebrity event earlier this week. TK, if you can go ahead and load those in, I'll send them to you.
Yeah, get them to me today. I won't do it till tonight. I got a very busy day, but we'll get her done.
I want to show you a couple of some of the highlights from earlier this week. A really cool event, and you guys will appreciate taking a little peek at it. So we'll be back tomorrow morning, 9:30. Until then, have a great one, everybody.
Like and share the video.